What is happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys jumping into another episode of One Big Fire. And I'm really going to be selfishly excited for today's conversation. I love any opportunity to get with any individual, especially on the sports side of things, right? Anybody that reaches kind of that upper echelon to kind of hit that pro status, right? Like the work ethic, the discipline, the mindset, the luck that has to kind of go in to be able to get to that level. I just love, picking the brains and kind of hearing their process, their journey to get to that point. But before we jump in and chop it up with Jake a little bit, Mr. Stasek, what's happening, brother?
Hey, what's up, Mr. Kitchens? Yes. Super excited to welcome Jake onto the podcast. Before we get started and dig in and get to learn about this amazing human being and all the good he's doing in the world now and his journey through the NHL, want to remind everybody, go to honeybadgernation.com. We are going to be adding some killer new merch. We've had the same old merch. I got to take 100-0 responsibility for that. We haven't upgraded it. We are upgrading it now. So in 2025, we're going to have a whole new line of awesome Honey Badger Nation merch. I know Jake's a bit familiar with that because it's on the jerseys of our hockey jerseys that we play with Bankers Cup. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But make sure you check it out, honeybadgernation.com. Also, our coaching that we do weekly. And you can also find out opportunities on how to partner with us at honeybadgernation.com. Without any further ado, Jacob, my buddy, Jake Newton, what's up, my friend?
Hey, brother. It's so good to be here, my man. So good. Feeling good. The sun's shining here in Cleveland. As we know, it's very rare in the winter time. So I'm looking forward to this episode. And then once this is done, getting out for my workout out in the metro parks. But things are good. Life is good. And God is good. So here we are.
I love it, man. So, I met Jake through a good friend of mine, Chris Wendt, and we do a hockey tournament, or not a tournament. It's really a game. And it's just a charity event that Chris started, 4 or 5 years ago now. Yeah. And, started out as actually a golf tournament, and we've added hockey to the mix because we're crazy and we love hitting that black puck around. And it's just turned into such a fun event that we raise money for good causes. And, our industry gets together. It's going to be this coming March, and I'll put the information. I'll let you know at the end. But that's how I met Jake. And if I were to describe Jake, I would describe Jake this way. I would say if you took the Buddha and combined it with like a Wayne Gretzky, all right, now we have the Buddha version of a hockey player, which you wouldn't even think that those two made sense, but it does because we have the real living Jacob Newton here, who's really dedicated the last half of his career or his current part of where he's at right now in his journey in his career into helping elite athletes get through the mindset part of all the stresses, everything that gets in the way, all the things that trigger us, throw us off, all the things that we're trying to master on our normal like daily lives. And of course, being the CEO of your business and running your own business as an entrepreneur, those things are constantly like, getting into our brain and throwing us off of our path of focus. And I've had many one-on-one sessions with Jake. He's an amazing human being. Anything to add, John, before we bring Jake up here and chat a little bit about his journey?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, anybody at that upper level of anything in life, right? What I've always found, it's that mindset capability, right? To be able to where you can, it all starts just the visualization, being able to start there, but also how to handle and work through adversity and how to push through, how to maintain the discipline, how to do those things. It's all mindset it gets to a certain point. And so just kind of, like I said, selfishly excited to jump in here today with Jake.
So Jake, if you don't mind, a lot of people listening to our podcast never met you, don't know you. Some do. Of course, anyone that followed the NHL or even recently, your team actually, I think, won the national championship for is it 3-on-3?
Yeah, 3-on-3 league called 3 Ice. And,
3 Ice, so much fun to watch, by the way. If you had a chance to watch it, you can find it on your local TV. But tell us about your journey where you started and where literally hockey took you on that journey to today.
Yeah. So, I'm not from here in Cleveland originally. I'm from a small little desert town about 25 minutes outside of Palm Springs, California. And nobody knows my hometown. So I always just say Palm Springs or Riverside. The town I grew up in was rated the 4th worst in the whole state of California. And so you know how dang big California is and how many cities there are. And I come from the 4th worst. So I'm grateful for hockey because hockey was my ticket out of that town. There was, so much crime, gangs. There's really just no good out there. And so again, hockey was my ticket, but I went a more unconventional route, being that I started out in roller hockey. Being from a small little desert town, we didn't have any ice hockey in my town, and I'm just so grateful for the fact that we had a roller hockey rink. So, I started out just playing in the house. I'll never forget getting my first pair of rollerblades that had the rubber stopper on the back, and I was just making these black marks all through the house on the carpet and everything. And then we eventually, took it out of the house into the back of the house, the street behind our house, just, gathering all the local kids around to play as much as we can. And, we started getting some attention around the town. And we got an article in the local newspaper that my parents still have hung up in their house. So it was just, good memories when I reflect back on that. But as I said, a more unconventional route, starting out in roller hockey. And at that time, ice hockey wasn't too popular in California. Gretzky got traded to the Kings back in '88, so that certainly helped, gain in its popularity. And then with the Southern California teams finding more success, the Kings winning the Stanley Cups as they have, the Anaheim Ducks back in 2007, really helped to amplify the game of ice hockey in California. But it wasn't until the age 11 when I made the transition over to ice hockey, and that was an hour and 15 commute there, and then obviously the same time back. So there was a lot of dedication, obviously, but a lot of discipline and sacrifice that took place from, not only my parents, but both my brothers and both my sisters. And, I wound up playing in Los Angeles, which was 100 miles away, but in California traffic, that took us 3.5 hours. So, it was get home from school, do your homework in the car, eat in the car, sleep in the car, get home by 1 a.m, wake up and do it all over again. So again, a lot of sacrifice had to take place in order for me to be able to play this game. I don't come from money. 2 brothers, 2 sisters. We adopted 3 cousins. And at one point we were all playing hockey on separate teams. And I don't know how in the heck my parents figured that out, but we learned how to pack, 5 humans and 5 hockey bags into a 2-door car. And so yeah, again, so much sacrifice, but that was in youth hockey. I moved away from home when I was 15 years old to play junior hockey, the step below college. And that was at a time when I was experiencing more struggles and more suffering within my personal life that I just really wasn't aware of back then. But it had a way of bleeding into my on ice performance. But I was, fortunate that I had some God-given ability, skill-wise, within the game. Obviously, I had to be very intentional with working on that. But moving away from home was obviously a challenge at such a young age when I needed family, I needed love the most. And now I'm 2,000 miles away. And at that time, we didn't have FaceTime. So it was just simply phone calls. But that was my junior year in high school. I went home for my senior year, and then I started getting interest from higher level junior hockey, which is, again, just the step below college. Eventually moved away to Frisco, Texas. Played there for a year, played for 2 years in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then eventually went and committed to play college hockey at Northeastern University. It was not my grades that got me into that school. It was purely my hockey. So thankfully, my hockey skills were at a level that I could score an 18 on the ACT and still get into a very well, respected academic school in Northeastern. And again, had another very successful freshman season. I was on the Hockey East, which is the division I played in, the Hockey East all-rookie team. Started gaining interest from NHL teams. Got an offer from the Washington Capitals, and I was going to take it because I didn't want to be at school anymore. It was very hard to balance the student-athlete life. And so that offer came. My agent tried getting me more money. They said no. Well, the Anaheim Ducks, who's, my hometown team, had caught wind that I received an offer. And so they came in with a maximum rookie offer, and I eventually wound up taking that. And, before we get into the mindset stuff of where I'm at now, I was not at this place then that I'm at now. It's been many years of working on myself, self-mastery, self-discovery, but I was always told that I've got $1 million legs, meaning it was my skating ability that allowed me to play the style of game that I played and allowed me to get to the levels that I got to. But what I lacked then was the $1 million mindset to go along with the physical abilities. And that is ultimately what held me back to not having an actual career in the NHL, which was obviously the ultimate dream. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
That's amazing. There was a lot there, Jake, and it all led you to, what people in baseball, I think, call the big show, right? But on the ice, and it had to be an amazing experience. What I'd love to unpack is that moment where you had said it was cut short because you didn't have the $1 million mindset. And right along the same, when I got my license and I was 25 years old, I was in my mid-20s, thought that my pure will could take me to where I wanted to go. And man, was my mindset just in an awful place. A lot of it just because I lived in this survival. My environment was very, survival based, very victim mentality type of things I was surrounding myself with the wrong people in the wrong environments. And I take responsibility for that, but that's just where I was. And so I had to have some kind of a realization. It wasn't until for me that I met somebody. I met this person. I had actually known him for a few years, but he brought me to a Tony Robbins. I'll never forget it. We flew to Chicago and we went to a Tony Robbins UPW event where you walk on coals, which I said I would never do. And I did it anyway. It changed my life because at that point it was just a big awareness aha moment that there was some things in my brain that needed to be unlocked that were not unlocked. That event unlocked. It just kind of opened up this ceiling. And I've had other moments like that of belief, but I'm not going to talk about mine. I want to talk about yours. What was that moment where it was like, okay, there's a whole different muscle I need to be working here. It's not just my quads, for my skating ability and maneuverability on the ice, for my slap shot or my wrist shot or whatever it is. It's like, I got this muscle up here that I need to be starting to work here. I didn't even know that, there was another level. What was it for you? What moment was that?
Yeah. So, after I signed my contract with Anaheim, I signed a 3-year entry-level contract with them in year one of training camp. I played a preseason game. I scored a goal on my very first shot, got an assist. I had 2 points. I thought I was on top of the world. I thought I was going to be making opening night roster. This was in San Jose, preseason game. Game was sold out. It was insane. I started. I was like, I did it. I made it. Here I am. Well, the very next day, I participated in warmups, and that was it. After warmups, got dressed, went up to the press box, and then eventually got a text from the player liaison saying you need to go see the general manager. So I knew exactly what that meant. I went and saw him. They were going to send me down to the AHL, which would be, again, the Cleveland Monsters here. But it wasn't even then, unfortunately, it wasn't even then that I realized my mindset was what was holding me back. I went from that year, had an okay season. The next season, I wound up getting traded to the Colorado Avalanche, who were at that time, they were affiliated with the Monsters. At that time, it was the Lake Erie Monsters. So that's, what brought me here to Cleveland. And still, it wasn't there. I got here, I was playing well, and then I got injured. I was out for a little while, and then I would play a game, sit 7 games, play a game, sit 6. Eventually got sent down to a league that no longer exists, and that still wasn't the breaking point. The breaking point came in year 3 of my career, where I had gotten an offer to go over and play in Europe. And I got offered a contract in the 2nd Italian league. And I didn't even know that there was a 1st Italian league. I was not aware about hockey in Europe. My vision, my goal was the NHL. And so I was laser focused on that. So now I'm in this 2nd Italian league, and there, yes, it's a passion of the guys on my team, the local players, but it was more of just a hobby for them. They had a typical 9-to-5 job. We would practice at nighttime. And so, these guys weren't out there practicing all summer long like, I was as an actual pro. These guys were more amateurs. And I remember after many different practices, taking a knee once practice was done and just observing my teammates and noticing how several of them were tripping over themselves because they were just that bad at hockey. And that's fine. I don't care about that, but I realized in that moment, holy heck, I just went from an NHL contract to the 2nd Italian league. Like, what happened, what's gone on here. And I realized in that moment that I was the problem within all of the situations in my life. But I found that inside of that problem was also the solution, and I'm the solution as well. So that's the year I started picking up, mental toughness books, mental strength books that really, again, got me into understanding that that was the only thing I hadn't been exercising at that time, and go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Jake, what was that? I mean, was it just in the moment where it just finally all sunk in? You're just sitting there and you're seeing these guys tripping over each other, but they probably have the biggest smiles on their faces and they're just loving every dang second of it. But, for you could have still latched on even deeper to that victim mentality and really, carried that burden with you throughout the rest of your life and made everybody else around you even more miserable, than even you were. So was it just because what I find even in myself, right, it's just, lack of awareness, right? You're not even solution aware. You're not problem aware. And it's sometimes, we just have that stronger relationship with the window than we do with the mirror. And was it for you just like, holy shit, like this is real. I'm in Europe. I'm this far away from my family. I'm in a league that I didn't even know it existed, but these dudes are terrible, but they're having the time of their life. Like, was it just that fast of an awareness for you?
So it was a little bit of that, but then it was also, while reading these books, what it opened me up to is becoming more aware of myself and more introspective, and at that time I was doing everything physical. I was doing everything that NHL players do physically. But through this book, it got me into understanding that it allowed me to, use some memories of past situations, whether that be adversity, getting cut, getting traded, getting screamed at by coaches, and it allowed me to tune into how I responded to those external situations. And what I realized within myself is that I became a victim, no different than Al was talking about. I became a victim in all of these situations, and I got lost in blaming others or complaining about, my current circumstances, my current situation, not realizing the role I played within my own suffering, within my own struggle. And so once I was able to, again, take a look at the mirror and just point the finger back at myself, it just opened me up to understanding that everything is here.
What was the book? What was the book, Jake?
So the first book was called Mind Gym. I believe right here.
Did you find? Oh, I love it. Did you find it? Did somebody hand it to you? What was?
Yeah, it was actually a buddy of mine that I played with. He's actually still a good brother of mine. I played here with the Monsters with him. His name's Greg Malden. He played in the NHL. Not as long as he wanted to, of course, but then he wound up over in Europe, kind of the same years as I. And so we were over in Europe together for 7 years, not together, but still over there, kept in touch. And he mentioned this book to me. And so I decided to purchase it and dive into it. And it's interesting because I think through all of the different books and everything, I think we as humans, we all have mental strength. We've all exemplified and shown that in our lives. But I think the biggest separator is the mental stamina, because we know that life is going to continue throwing things at us, right? And it's easy at times to just get up, okay, I can handle this, but what happens when it's the next day and the next day and next week and the next month and it's every single year, So the more you lean into those situations, I've found is what allows us to have that mental stamina so that, again, we can better manage ourselves in the face of the chaos that we know is coming, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. So,
yeah. So Jake, it's for I love using the amateur versus pro analogy. Actually, our friend Coach Michael Burt, kind of put it into a cool way of saying it, if you will, where for real estate agents, many real estate agents want to leave their amateur desires behind and going pro, but those are just kind of fancy words and they're fun to say. From a pro athlete standpoint, a lot of things are similar. To be able to operate as a real estate professional at a high level, you have to do things differently than you're going to do if you just want to just take what's given and operate at a mediocre level. A lot of things are going to change. You have to manage your time differently. You have to surround yourself with different people. From a pro hockey player, though, that specifically, and then we can kind of like use your example to mirror it to our industry. What's the number one? What are the big roadblocks that you help professional, athletes get over? What is the roadblock that they keep running into? They're obviously talented. They're hardworking. They must have at some point been introduced to the right surroundings and right people to get where they're at and get an opportunity to even, try out, let alone like operate inside of an NHL or any kind of a professional sports network. What's the thing that most common thing that happens to highly talented athletes that sets them back, holds them back from getting to the next level that you actually can isolate, focus on, and help them work on and fix?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is negative self-talk. We all experience the thoughts all day long. We roughly experience 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And 90% of the thoughts that we will experience today are the same exact thoughts that we experienced yesterday. And unfortunately, 70% of them are negative. So the more you can step into awareness and understanding that, right, you are then essentially a victim to your own mindset, whether you're aware of the thoughts or not. Your body is always paying attention. That's the mind-body connection, so many players, regardless of age, regardless of, ability levels, they just don't understand the power and ability they have to stop negative thinking and recreate new thoughts that are going to fall in line at a quicker rate with the player they are and the player that they want to be. So negative self-talk is a massive one, but performance anxiety is another huge one that, again, it doesn't matter. I was working with a 29-year-old pro that plays over in Europe, and one of his biggest roadblocks was he got way too nervous before games, and he just didn't know how to manage himself in that. But I was able to guide and help him on getting to the root cause of his performance anxiety through the work that I've done on myself. I mentioned these books. There's so many other books that I've read, but it's in the deeper work that I've done on myself that has been able to eliminate so many of the roadblocks, so that's what I really try and help my athletes with is, again, getting to the root cause of our whatever the struggle is, because in my opinion, everything in our adult life is directly connected to our childhood. So if we can go back to those places and maybe re-coach ourselves, again, if this performance anxiety is coming from how a coach, used to treat us within the game at our younger ages, then that's a recoaching. And so there's a process to doing it. It might take a few times, but you're worthy of that. And you're certainly capable of it. Just in time, or at times, players just need, proper guidance on how to go back and heal that version of themselves so that they can be more present and not get out of control with that anxiety.
Yeah. What are some immediate exercises that you really try to instill into the athletes around the negative self-talk, right? Like where do you immediately try to shift them to? Obviously what they're doing is not serving them, but let's incorporate these exercises that I know will serve you to really overcome that challenge.
Yeah, sir. So the first tool, and it's a very simple tool. It's very easy to apply in literally any area of your life, but it's within the first 20 to 30 minutes after we wake up is when the subconscious mind is the most aware. Our brain waves are on a theta frequency, so our brain waves are very slow, and that's the same exact brain waves that we were experiencing in the first 7-8 years that we were alive. We were in that theta frequency, so we were in absorption mode. So how we were spoken to by our parents, our closest caretakers, brothers, sisters, friends, classmates, teammates, their voices eventually became our inner voice. So there's a way to rewire and reprogram that. And a perfect time to do that is, again, within those first 20 to 30 minutes. So I guide them on just having, a different routine to start their day. Instead of getting up and getting straight on your phone, which we've all been there, we know, well, now you're feeding the subconscious mind technology. Your subconscious mind is going to want more of that throughout the rest of the day. So instead of doing that, I get them into some positive self-talk to start their day. And by starting your day with that, what it opens you up to is becoming more aware of your thinking and your thought patterns throughout the rest of the day. So again, we know we're going to go back unconscious at some point during the day. And so again, with starting your day with that, it opens up an opportunity for you to recognize that. And then once you've recognized, now a new choice is available to you. And once the new choice is there, we then get to step into being the conscious thinker, the active thinker. And when we're producing our own thoughts, we're going to choose to make those positive. And then if they're positive in the mind, again, we get to experience a different feeling in the body as well.
I love that because, it's knowledge and power, right? So it's just awareness and choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power, right? Is in the choice. And so I love that, being able to, go right into it. And for me, that morning is just kind of what led, to us even on this call was, Al and I were talking about, it's just that gratitude practice first thing in the morning. And if that's for me, that's my exercise is just, hey, what am I grateful for in the moment? That's the very first thing. I know a lot of people, have the gratitude at the end of the day. So it kind of forces them to look for the things they're grateful for throughout the day, but being able to have some type of gratitude practice. And, I love that positive self-talk because we're so, the things that we say, we hear, and then we start to believe that plays in the background is so powerful to reprogram. But having that level of awareness is key. What are some ideal, even maybe for you or your athletes, kind of that first 60, 90 minutes of every day to where you see them taking their lives to a whole nother level?
Yeah. So, it's obviously the positive self-talk to start, but I'm also a big advocate for breath work. And I know that through my own practice, I've been doing breath work now for 7 years. I got certified in as a breath work instructor 3 years ago. So it's a non-negotiable for me to start my day with breath work to, engage my diaphragm, oxygenate my system, which just creates a different level of focus and presence. And I think ultimately that's what life needs from us. And that's the requirement. You want to get more out of life. You want to, serve the people that you serve at a higher level. You want to be present. And so by starting your day with the breath work to oxygenate your system, again, it's more focus, more clarity, more mental resiliency. You're better able to manage yourself, mental control, emotional control. So I guide a lot of my athletes on breath work to start their day as well. And what it does, it just creates and it puts you more into a responsive state, so that, again, yes, life's going to continue to happen. Just because we're working on our mindset, it doesn't mean that it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. It doesn't mean that the struggles aren't going to come. But what it does is it just sets you up into, again, being better able to manage yourself when those things happen. So, in the sales world, heck, I was in car sales for 7 months. I despised it. I wasn't a fan. It was so outside of who I am as a person. But I have clients now that are non-athletes that are in sales. And so I put them through a week challenge of starting their day, no different than what we're speaking about here. And what the results have been is that they're able to be far more present in their sales calls, in their sales pitches. And it makes it easier for them to overcome the objections because they're far more present and in control of themselves. So that now when the objection comes, they're a lot more clear in their mind. So that, what to say next is a lot easier opposed to, having no morning routines. These things happen. We feel like life is taken from us. I'm just going to give up. I don't know how to overcome this. But again, the more grounded you are in yourself, I think it just sets you up to have transformation in every area of your life.
I love it, man. I got up real quick because I saw where the conversation was going. And one of the things that I'm implementing right now is that morning routine. I'd love to add the breath work to it. But it's just one of those things. It's another habit that I'm trying to create a new healthy habit of doing that one thing. What I didn't know, what I just learned from what you just shared with me is that we're in that theta, you called it the theta mode, where our unconscious is more absorbent, it's more absorbent, like a sponge. Like
Yep.
we're able to, internalize and actually keep a lot more in the first, did you say 20 or 30 minutes of being
Yep.
awake?
Yeah, the first 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah, we're on that theta frequency. Yeah.
That's so awesome that I know. So I actually just picked up this, literally just was delivered today. And I bought 3 for my 3 sons as well. And it's the gratitude journal.
Yeah.
And you can get anything for it, but this one's it's a gratitude journal specifically for men. It's like $18 or something on Amazon. So I bought a bunch of them. And this is what I'm doing every morning to start my day off. And one of the reasons that I'm doing it is that everybody has bad days, even people that are, in good places. Maybe they're in good places with their relationship and work and business and financially, whatever. But we all have that. We all have some shit around the corner that we're dealing with, right? And, that mood that can literally set you back days if you're, you know what I mean? If you don't have that awareness and the skills and ability to handle these things that come up, it can really, you could end up losing hours and hours can turn into lost days. And when you think about that from a business standpoint, it costs you a lot of money and it costs you a lot of emotional stress as well. And I think it's really, really hard to be bummed out and depressed when you start with writing down what you're grateful for every day, which is, I think, how you ended up on the podcast, because you commented on, the gratitude post that I had put up about John's story about being grateful for the fleas. And that's a story, if, head to my Facebook wall. If you're listening to this and you don't know what I'm talking about, I won't go through the whole story right now because we have in the past. But what I wrote down at the beginning of this, Jake, is your version of that, at least at the beginning, was you were grateful for the roller rink. Now, you didn't have ice hockey. You could have had the mindset of saying, man, why didn't my parents raise me in a place where they actually had ice hockey and there wasn't gangs running around and there wasn't this and that, and have that victim mentality of blame game of where or why didn't they have the money to do it? You were like, I'm grateful for the roller rink, even though it wasn't the ice rink. And that was a big aha. That took me till I was about, I don't know, maybe 20, 22 years old. I was holding this resentment and holding on to this resentment. And it was almost like I liked holding on to the resentment because it was part of my identity at the time. And I was just pissed off and angry at everybody, which also reflected in the music I was listening to and the people I was hanging out with and just all of it. And luckily I had a wake up. And my wake up came from a person who was actually one of my teammates at one point, but a friend growing up, the most unlikely guy that you would ever think to take advice from, because he was kind of an asshole. But he was my asshole. He's like my friend, right? We all got one. And he said, you know what? I think you need to forgive your parents and forgive, whoever you're holding onto this anger from, and just let it go. And I was like, dang, you're right. Why they did the best they could, that, with what they had at the time. And just that lesson in itself, I had to forgive them. Not that they needed forgiveness, but in my mind, clearly that I did, before that I could then mentally move on and start working on me. I was just carrying too much shit. So anyways, wanted to bring that up, and really good stuff. Anything else to wrap up?
Yeah. Can I dive into that a little bit
Absolutely.
as well? Obviously the gratitude thing, like you said, again, it goes hand in hand with what we were talking about. If you start your day with gratitude, it's going to open you up to, thinking more about the things that you're grateful for throughout the rest of the day, so it's, again, those first 20 minutes are so powerful. But, in regards to forgiveness, it's a powerful thing, because I've done a lot of, Albie, I don't know if you've read the articles on my story, my childhood and everything, but, experienced a lot of childhood trauma, things that I've had to work through, especially now being a parent. The last thing I want to do is hand down what was handed down to me, but in regards to forgiveness, I think the reason why people are resistant to forgiving other people is because they feel like these other people don't deserve it. And sure, you might be right, but we don't forgive them for them. We forgive them for us, so that we can drop that weight and then step into a healthier version and a better version of ourselves. Because, again, whoever it is that, we need forgiveness from, or whoever we need to forgive, they don't know that you're experiencing the pain of holding on to that resentment so much, so therefore you're the only one that can suffer from it, can struggle from it. So by the power of forgiveness, you then drop that weight, which allows you to be more mentally clear, more emotionally in control. And so now it becomes a lot easier to go and make those healthy choices to fall in line with, the people that we want to become.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Jake, before we wrap,
let me spit this quote out, but hang on to that, Johnny. Hang on to that.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever hear the quote? And I had it hanging above my desk with a picture of a Buddha, and it said, "Hanging on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." I was like, it was just a huge aha, and I'm like, that is freaking right. Who's really suffering here?
Yeah.
Because of my resentment and anger toward this person for whatever. I am, not them. They don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John, go ahead. I just, that's what Jake made
No,
me
you're
think
good. You're good. No, it's
dang it too.
yeah, absolutely. So I guess just a couple things here, Jake, before we kind of wrap. I think, one, you talked about the performance anxiety and having to possibly go back to previous experiences and how you unlearn and relearn, kind of moving forward. And obviously anxiety is thinking about the future. And one of the concepts that help us kind of move out of that is we just don't have the skills required to handle that situation. So being able to what we need to learn and what we need to develop, is that kind of part of it. What we're just not equipped with the right capabilities to be able to handle that situation. Just like you referring to performance anxiety with athletes, maybe they just don't have that proper routine. I'm a big, Sooner guy, grew up in Oklahoma. So I, all about all the Sooners on the pro level. And I love Bake, right? Bake's the guy. And just listening to him as he's matured throughout his career. And he's just like talking about, when he was hurt last year or being able to, he's like, I can still add value. I can still help guys with routines and things that they need to be prepared for coming in. How do they get prepared? How do they handle injury? How do they go through that? And I'm like, dang, right? Like you just don't know that until you've had to go through it yourself and being able to pour into people. So kind of like not even from performance anxiety for, athletes, but also professionals, right? How do I handle difficult conversations? How do I handle leadership situations that I'm kind of forced into? How do I navigate this? How do I navigate this deal? Like, what are some grounding, tools that you can give somebody like, hey, listen, if you're struggling with this, do this, get this foundation first before we build upon it kind of moving forward.
Yeah, well, I think in order to control things, we got to have a deeper understanding of what's actually taking place within us mentally and physically as a result of having the anxious thoughts that are present. So, earlier we were talking about the theta frequency, right, which is very slow. When a person is experiencing anxiety, their brain waves are super fast. It's called like a mid beta, high beta frequency. And so through your breath, by focusing on your breath and bringing that breath deep into your belly, you're able to, again, slow those brain waves down so that whatever you're anxious about, yes, it's still going to be there, but your view of it, how you're viewing it and the perspective that you can take on it will drastically shift. So, it can be a simple practice of a 3-second inhale into your belly, hold that for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 5 seconds. And what people don't understand is that when they are anxious, they are in fight or flight mode. So their body is operating under the impression that there's something outside of them that they need to fight or flight from. And in 99.9% of the cases, that is not true. But their breath is very shallow, right? And that's how most people are breathing throughout the day, very shallow to the upper part of their lungs, which leads more to the feelings of things that we don't want to experience, whether that's anxiety, depression, panic attacks. So the deeper you are with your breath, the more grounded and in the moment you can be, so that, again, when these different things happen, it's got nothing to do with the difficult conversation. It has everything to do with where your thinking is about the difficult conversation. It's got nothing to do with this future event. It has everything to do with how you're thinking about it. And so many people get caught in creating these stories of what they think it's going to be like. And most of the time, those stories are negative. So if you're going to participate in the story creating, why not create a story that's going to help you to feel better in the moment? And view that I'm going to get into that sales call, into this interview, and I'm going to freaking crush it. This is my approach. I'm going to stand tall. I'm going to sit high. I'm going to have a presence in the room. Right. And I'm going to speak with confidence and my delivery is going to be clear. And you can literally visualize all of that before the future thing, which then opens you up to feeling more comfortable and confident whenever that future thing happens, because the mind and the body don't know the difference between an event happening in real time and one that you create from thought alone. So the more you do the mental reps, you're actually preparing yourself for that future event. So when it comes, comfort, confidence, let's go attack.
I love it. It's a lot of, just stoic philosophy and a lot of the things that you just kind of referenced right in there. And, just why suffer, most of the time you're not going to suffer it at all. Right. And we suffer more in our mind than we do in real life. And that's so powerful to be able to, understand that and have that concept, but it does come back to the breathing, right? It comes back
Every
down
time.
to the breath work. Yeah.
And one thing I've realized through my journey of healing from the things that I've healed from is that suffering is necessary until you realize it's not necessary. You know, you have to go through the suffer until you realize, oh shoot, so much of the suffering is just rooted in me. It's me against me. It's Albie against Albie. It's John against John. And that's life, you know, and we're either experiencing life or we're experiencing mind. So the more you can get out of your mind, tune into your breath, come back home to your body. And there's one, you know, example analogy I like to use for people, and I'll use this. I know we're trying to get done here, but if you can view your mind when you're experiencing positive thoughts, if you can view that as the sunny blue sky, right? We know that in times the storms come, right? The dark clouds come, the thunder, the lightning, the tornadoes, those strike down on earth. The earth for us is our bodies. So we experience the negative thoughts. We feel the symptoms of those negative thoughts within our body. What do we need for the storm outside to pass to the next city or the next state? We need the wind to come through and push it away. And the wind for us is our breath. Get out of your mind, come back home to your body, come back home to safety. And you will then be able to view life from a clearer lens. So the next right choice, the next healthiest choice is more readily available to you, opposed to staying in the darkness, staying in the clouds.
That's amazing, man.
I love that. All right. I do. I really love that, Al. That is extremely powerful, right? I've a lot of mindfulness practice and for me, like just whatever it is, right? So I've been on the Headspace app for maybe a decade now. I've got like 38,000 minutes on that dang thing. And, you know, one of the concepts that they talk about is the blue sky, like kind of what you're referring to is that no matter how dark and cloudy it is, there's always blue sky above it. And if you can just sit still enough and just kind of get into yourself. But I love the little fact that you put in there that I've never heard that is so spot on, is that we need the wind to push the storm along, and the wind for us is our breath. Like that to me, like that is extremely powerful.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Jacob, if there's anyone listening to this podcast that wants to get a hold of you and, you know, needs your help, needs your expertise, needs your guidance, because clearly, you know, you have a big impact on a lot of people, and especially, you know, your niche seems to be, you know, working with high producing, you know, high producing people, whether it's pro athletes or business people that produce at a high level. That comes with stress. It comes with different challenges versus people that are operating at an amateur level, right? Mm-hmm. How can they get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to connect with Jacob Newton?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn at just Jacob Newton. You'll see, you know, the symbol for my business, Newton's Mind. My slogan is Take Back Your Power. On Instagram at Newton's Mind, NEWTONS Mind, MIND 55. On Facebook, just at Jacob Newton. And yeah, you know, obviously right now I'm primarily working with hockey players, but my guidance is universal. I could work with any athlete across any sport. It doesn't matter, because I'm not, you know, helping them specifically with their sport. I'm helping them with the mindset. And so, but even more than that, I love working with just everyday people, whether that's, you know, high performance in the sales world, or just people that experience things as a child, which again, I did. I've done a lot of healing around that. And I'm just super passionate about not trying to just help one person. I think there's too many people saying, if I could just help one person. I'm trying to help as many people as I possibly can. Thousands, hundreds of thousands. So if anybody wants some more clarity on the things we talked about, or wants to reach out for themselves or maybe their kids, again, you can find me on those different platforms, and I'm here to be of service. So thank you guys for this opportunity.
So good.
I'm grateful for you, Jacob. I'm grateful for our friendship, and appreciate you coming on and sharing this valuable information. Too many people aren't hearing this message, and you've articulated it beautifully. So we appreciate your time coming on and joining us. John, I'm grateful for you as well, my friend. Love you. And anybody out there, connect with Jacob. You won't be sorry. I've worked with him in the past, and looking to work with him in the future here. And I can't wait to see you in March for the Baker's Cup Classic. I believe it's March 20th. I'm not mistaken.
Thursday night, March 20th. Yeah, I just talked to Went yesterday.
Yep. In fact, the players roster is sold out now. We have a waiting list to get on for players. So,
and I know we've got we're hoping that the road to the Bankers Cup will be happening again, and we've got our prime candidate. We're just waiting to hear back from him on if he's going to join us.
Cool.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll love it.
Fun. That's always so fun. We basically
Good
grab John, a person that's really never played hockey before or barely ever been on skates, and teach them how to play hockey with Jake. Jake actually coaches and teaches them for about 3 months before the game. So by the time they get on the ice, they can kind of, maneuver around a bit, but they're still new. And it's just really hilarious watching them fall and things. So can't wait, man.
So good.
Thank you guys so much. Merry
Christmas,
Jake. Thank you, Jake.
And thank you guys.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you.